This is episode 10, and we are talking about life. You are listening to a Radiance Revival podcast where we rebirth and unearth your inner brilliance by focusing on love, energy, and freedom. I am your host, coach, and brilliance believer, Catherine Sogard. In this podcast, you will learn that you are your biggest advocate, fan, and creator of your own destiny by using the radiance you were born with. When you are empowered to use this inner brilliance, you can create your best life. So let's get this Radiance Revival started. Hey guys, I am so glad to be with you today, and it's been forever. I haven't actually done a podcast since the pandemic of COVID-19 that started in 2020. I look back at my last podcast was in 2019, so I haven't even done a podcast since we have been in the pandemic, which it's been wild, don't you think? I mean, I just think about everything that's happened over the past year for me personally, and I am sure that there are some of you out there that are right there and have had so much more happen in your life. So here we go. I wanted to talk a little bit about life. I really wanted to check in and see how you were doing. So I would love to hear from you. If you head over to my website, catherinesogard.com, or shoot me an email at catherinesogard@gmail.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing. What have been some high points in this thing? What have been some low points? Right before the pandemic started, my husband and I adopted a dog from our local humane society, and that definitely has been a godsend for me. Nigel is the funniest, silliest little monster ever, and I'm so happy that we got him. You know, hindsight is 2020, and we didn't even know it was coming, but I'm just so glad that we got him, because him and I have just been best pals, and he has training him and everything has just been, you know, there's definitely times when he gets on my last nerve, but it's just been overall such a blessing to have had him. He is so hilarious. I just adore him. He's so funny. He's a Chihuahua mix, but he does not look like a Chihuahua. My sister-in-law has a Chihuahua, and Bud does not look like Nigel at all. Like, Nigel is a lot bigger than a Chihuahua. But he's just great. He's wonderful. So if you want to see pictures of him, you can always check him out on Instagram at Nigel Sogard. Yep, he has his own Instagram account. And you can see when we got him and then all the way up to now. So he's real funny. So I want to talk a little bit about life. Like I said, check in with you guys. And I should have done this podcast a long time ago when the pandemic started, because there was a lot going on. But I think this is still a good time because there's still a lot going on and people are just dealing with stuff. And it's hard to deal with this much turmoil personally. You know, a lot of people have had personal contact with this COVID, whether it's been through, getting it themselves or having a family member or a really close friend contract COVID and, be real sick, or unfortunately, a lot of people obviously have died from COVID. So I feel like I have a little guilt that I should have done this a little earlier, but at the same time, I think we're still all going through a lot of stuff. People losing their jobs and everything. So I just wanted to give you a little tip that has been helping me through this pandemic. And so when I'm worried or when I'm anxious or I feel out of control or I get really frustrated or I have a lot of questions and not many answers, and when I am scared, I think one of the biggest things that has just been a godsend to me and just such a great thing is being able to help somebody else. So right when the pandemic started, I started making face masks. I mean, before they were even talking about masking. And let's be honest, like, there's a lot of people who are going to say, masking, blah, blah, blah. The fact is there is proof now. We've had a lot of, data. They've studied this, and masking does help. And really where these face masks started was it was going to be a local hospital, a hospital about 60 miles away from where I live, put out a pattern and said, we're going to need these because we know that PPE is something that's going to be hard to find. And here's a pattern for everybody that sews. If you have some fabric, we'd love for you to make these face masks. So I took the pattern and I made a ton of face masks, and I gave some away to some people that I knew who had some, their compromised immune systems, and I made some for my family and friends, and made a couple for some people who work in the healthcare system. And that really, at the beginning, when it just felt really scary, especially when it started, increasing in Iowa, which is where I'm from, it just felt like we didn't really know much about COVID-19. And so it was something to keep my mind busy, but it was also something that made me feel good because I knew that I was doing something good for somebody else. So there's a saying that Mr. Rogers said, and he always said, look for the helpers, in a hard situation, look for the helpers. Well, this is something that has helped me, and I really feel like secretly, that's part of the reason why I'm a coach and why I get so much joy out of my job, and why I got so much joy out of being a fitness instructor, and why I get so much joy out of being, a personal trainer, is because at the end of the day, I get paid to do something I love, but the reason I love it is because I love that feeling that you're doing something good to help somebody else. And it's always felt really rewarding to me. So put together a list of some ideas that might help you if you are looking for things to do to help. And these are just like really small things that, some cost a little bit of money, some cost a lot. And obviously, hopefully these inspire you to think of some other things that you can do to help other people. But one is write a card to an elderly neighbor. Live stream yourself reading a book, like a children's book, and publish it on YouTube so that, kids who are at home who might not be able to have a parent reading to them all the time, because we got tons of parents working at home and busy. Make a mask, call a neighbor and check in, wave to people that walk by your house, share a local business on social media. I know I work for a nonprofit part-time as well, and I work to improve a district in a neighboring town. And one of the things that we do is we promote, part of the district is a business district. And so I know a like and a share and a comment and a review can go really far for those small businesses, especially when they're having a hard time, and continue to have a hard time. So, it doesn't have to cost a lot, and it really doesn't have to take a lot of your time, but there are so many ways to help, and it does a lot for somebody else. But the funny part about this, selfishly, it does a whole heck of a lot for you, and you're going to feel so good. Number one, you're going to get your mind off of all the problems that you have and all of the things that are overwhelming and all of the things that feel out of your control and make you feel anxious. And you're going to be able to focus on something else for a while. And you're also going to know that you did something good for somebody else. We have an elderly neighbor that lives next door, and she's just the sweetest lady. And she's we take out her garbage, every week. And it's just a really easy thing we can do. It's not a hard thing. We just wheel our garbage out to the end of the drive and we pull it back in once they've done it. And, it doesn't mean much for us to do it. And I don't really think about it. It's just kind of become a habit. We just kind of do it. But every once in a while, we'll get a call from her. She's asking sometimes when the power goes off, she'll give us a call and see if ours is out, and she'll always thank us every time for just being good neighbors. And that's really all. And I'm not looking for the thank you, but it feels good to kind of get outside of what you're thinking and what's overwhelming you and to help somebody else. So I know this wasn't a very long podcast, but I wanted to tell you guys that I really have been thinking about all of you listeners and everybody that tunes in, and all the people that I've met through social media and all the people who have just been on my team rooting for me. And I've been thinking about you, and I've just kind of let life fill in all the gaps and not focused on things that bring me joy. And this is one of them. It's talking to you guys and, spreading some ideas of things that may have helped me or people that I work with may have helped them, and just passing that along to you. One thing I do want to hear from you guys is if there's a topic that you guys want to hear about. Is there something in your life that you would like, a question that you would like to talk about, something you'd like to hear about? Or is there somebody that you think that is amazing that you think would be a really great fit with this podcast? Because I'd love to connect with them and, have a conversation with them over Zoom and throw it up on a podcast. So I would love to hear some feedback from you guys on what you would like to hear. And I promise it will not be over a year before the next episode. So thank you guys for joining me. And as always, I love you guys. You guys are amazing. And I just hope that you spend some time in the next few days really finding something that makes you feel awesome, that makes your brilliance come out. Because the more time that you can spend doing things that makes you feel brilliant and radiant and just in your element, the better off you're going to be, and the easier it is to have to do things that might not make you feel so great. All right, loves, thank you for listening to yet another brilliant, energy-packed episode of the show. If you haven't yet subscribed, what the heck are you waiting for? You know it's my mission to help women revive their inner radiance so they can live their best lives. So if you enjoyed this episode, leave a brilliant review so that more women can find us and join us, radiate our brilliance across the universe.